the City Council workshop of November 7th, 2022. First up on the docket is annual community development survey with Glenn Holmes. Mr. Holmes.
Good evening. Thank you all.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Yeah, there's a hyperlink. You could just grab it or do that.
So as I believe you all know, we do an annual community development department survey. We're getting jump on it this year, and we wanted to bring it to you for any input. Hope you had a chance to look through it. Some of the items that I would highlight is the original survey was actually, sorry about that, put together by staff and a bunch of Bates students a number of years ago, and it's been kind of refined over time. And last year we had, what was it, 362 respondents covering over 1,000 people. We're hoping to double that number this year. This is all part of our citizen participation plan to get more people involved in doing it, as we got rid of the citizen participation committee last year. So we're getting a lot more input. And in the survey, some of the things that we did change this year is on the first page towards the bottom, it says, if housed, how much of your monthly income goes towards rent and utilities? So in previous years, we basically asked people if they were housed, if they were, in fear of their housing, things like that. And it became kind of they chose that. When reality is the federal government kind of tells us what those answers should be based on how much money they spend on rent and utilities. So by asking this question, there's a lot of people, even though they would fall into one of these categories, if they have an apartment, they're going to say that they're housed adequately. And we want to be able to identify which ones aren't. On the second page, you'll see a couple of sections where we ask them to check some different services. These are all based on national objectives for HUD. So hopefully we can gather what their interests are, and we'll use that as we put together our budget for next year on what programs and plans we should change as we move forward. Any questions on the survey or what the purpose is? Then we're all set to go. So that'll be going out probably in December. And then we'll stay out there for probably about 3 months. So we'll have time to collect as many as possible. And we do, Liz works with us and makes this an online survey as well. She's done a great job in the past for us on that. We also put out into posters telling people about it and where they can go to the website with a QR code so they can go directly to it, as well as having paper copy available at a lot of the places you would suspect that we would. That's all I got for that one.
Thank you. That's it? Okay, we're going to move on then. Thank you for that update on that.
Yep.
Next, we're going to talk about the Neighborhood Corner Store Program. Grant.
Go.
So
if you looked at the packet, there was a photo there that showed two different circles around the large grocery chains that we have in the city. So we identified Shaw's, Hannaford, and Walmart as kind of the big three. And then the inner circle is a quarter mile and the outer circle is a half mile. The staff is recommending a quarter mile based on walkability and what would make sense. And based on that, we worked with assessing and looked at what we thought would be out there. And we believe that existing, there are probably about 6 small stores that would qualify for this program. And as well, it's open to startups, so if somebody wanted to start a small local grocery. And there is one place where the other chains may come into play, and that is in the transportation piece. This would be eligible if somebody, and this came from the Good Food Council, some of the recommendations they had in regard to other things they've seen in other cities that were working. So a nonprofit could apply for some money to be able to provide transportation to go to some of our senior housing or low-income housing and be able to bring people to a store to be able to shop, and they could get paid for that, and we wouldn't control if they went to Hannaford, Shaw's, or one of those. And again, this is a draft, and we're here for your input tonight to see what you think.
any questions? Councilor Staples?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I like what we've got here in front of us. If it were me and I was the one that was deciding who was getting these grants, I would give a higher scoring myself to a new store than an existing one, but I think you need to include the existing ones as well. but that would just be me.
Yep, appreciate it.
Yeah, I think there's one question out here too that we should probably get some consensus on too. Quarter mile versus half mile radius. Staff recommended, correct me if I'm wrong, quarter mile radius?
Correct.
So the definition of a complete neighborhood is a neighborhood in which you can walk to housing, foods, job within 15 minutes, a 15-minute walk, which is roughly half a mile, depending on the individual. But so is there a consensus for quarter mile diameter or exclusion zone from existing, or half mile, based upon this map on page 2? So in other words, you're talking about excluding new startups within those diameters of the major retailers currently.
So what this would do is anything that's within a quarter mile, then no funds would, whatever circle you pick, no funds would be put out for any purpose within those exclusion zones. So basically, if you have Hannaford, Walmart, or Shaw's within that circle, then it would not allow any investment into any of the places that may qualify.
Within a quarter mile.
Quarter or half, your choice. I mean, we're recommending a quarter, but we showed the half mile just so you could see what that would do.
Quarter mile? Quarter mile? I think a quarter mile sounds good
Because
too.
that's a half mile from one side to the other.
Correct.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that, obviously you keep a list, and if there's a prioritization, if we don't have anybody apply, outside of a quarter mile, let's say, then I think if you could come back to us, and let's, we can reconvene on that one.
Yeah, the only other question we had was around that, because there are so few that we believe are going to be qualified, would we be looking to have like a 60-day open enrollment or application period? And then if we had not had enough applications to spend the money, do you want that to come back to the ARPA funds, or would we increase the amount of money we would be willing to provide to some of these stores?
I would think the intent here is to create new and a variety of sources for foodstuffs. So if 60 days elapses, I'd like to see, I think the council would like to look at each one of the applicants, assuming there are some, and make determination versus having a staff level decision. But if there is monies left unspent, at the same period of time, come back to us for either reappropriation or an extension of the program based upon, and modification, whether it be up or down. But I think that, this is something, and correct me if I'm wrong, council, if you want staff to handle this, have staff handle this. But the appropriation of the awards, do you want to make that decision, or do you want staff to? Thoughts?
I'd let staff do it. Also occurred to me that maybe we could have a preference if they would serve or sell local food, from local farmers, like bonus points in the app, just because
That's
the
what I'd be
problem.
hoping that
The
this
quarter mile is so close to the larger stores that in effect it might be more for like convenience type stores, which is,
So this-
tends to be junkier food and whatnot, not necessarily, but
Like a butcher
typical.
shop.
Right, as you,
Yeah, like, you could have meats from a farm or produce, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
and it definitely is focused on healthy foods.
Yep.
So staff makes a decision, come back to us in 60 days with the results, and act further recommendations on action for anything remaining.
Super. Our plan is to open up on January 1, basically everything in place, so we'd come back, so January, February, so it'd be in March, we'd come back with you with where we're at and what the results have been so far.
Yeah, one thing on that, I do have the transportation aspect of it.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask you a question?
Ask, please.
Roy's in New Auburn, is that in that half mile or is it not?
So Roy's Foodland, if it's the quarter mile, would qualify, and if it was the half mile, I believe it would be out, it would not qualify.
So we're keeping it within the quarter mile, so it's good.
Yep.
Yeah, because that half mile, actually, yeah, that half,
Half miles.
no, even half miles.
I think it would be all right with a half, yeah.
Yeah, it's right here on the map, so either way, it's good, it qualifies.
I can't see.
Yeah. Well, I got glasses. Okay, so on the
I'd prefer to have a smaller circle to have more possible candidates.
Which is what, the quarter mile, the quarter mile will give you the
Increase the
largest,
amount of-
correct.
Yep.
And if we have too many, that's a good problem.
Absolutely.
And the history with CDBG over the years is the commercial side has been harder to market versus, like rehab of apartments, so.
Right.
You want to make it as open
Yep.
and feasible as
So
possible.
this will help fit that
Yeah.
niche or that kind of
Yeah.
hole. I do, I'm curious, I'd like the council's opinion on this, on the shuttle program. I think I understand kind of the secondary goal, trying to get people to groceries.
Yep.
Or transport. But it's a non-sustaining, it's non-permanent, if you would, action. Because it's just, that,
Right, and
obviously
when
that
the
revenue it's finite.
when the money runs out, money runs out.
I mean, this idea is to sponsor something and jumpstart something that has longevity without state subsidy.
Right. I mean,
Or city
my
subsidy.
response would be is that hopefully if it was successful, that nonprofit would continue with other funds they would find because they could then prove that it was successful. But again, it was an outside entry to the program.
Council, any thoughts on this? Transportation? Yes, no? Does it fit the intent?
It's really hard to exclude that, but I think the intent here is to really bolster our stores that exist, right? And I think transportation to the stores is almost a separate thing.
Yeah, we're supposed to be,
I don't
again,
think transportation should be involved in it.
I got 2 to omit transport. Do I have a little bit of a consensus on workshop on this from the council? But we do have other transportation options within the community as well.
Yeah.
I think you could leave it, and I just don't see them biting on that. I think they're more interested probably in the other expenses that they.
I think the stores themselves are gonna come forward for
Yeah.
additional things before we're gonna find a nonprofit who
Yeah.
wants to run more transportation,
Right,
yes.
buying a cooler, whatever, I don't know what the limitations
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
but.
Hopefully expand and build new.
Yeah.
We want to increase options. Okay, so keep transportation clean, keep it out, and then we'll move forward with it. I think that's the intent, is to increase options in our neighborhoods that are walkable, to create complete neighborhoods. It feeds into everything else we're doing with ADUs, streetscapes, permit-approved planning. I mean, so it all folds into the same ecosystem.
Is there gonna be somebody that's gonna make communications with these people, or is it gonna be mail out, or?
So because of the limited number of of stores we've identified that we believe would be applicants, my guess is we will reach out to them to let them know for sure. But we will be doing a marketing campaign, online through social media, so that anybody who we've missed between our thoughts and assessing, that no one's excluded.
That's actually a really good point. Like, so is there, like, the chamber or those types of business, like those types of business incubator type ideas? Like, we want to have our entrepreneurs in the city be well aware of this option. So I just want to make sure that we get the message out.
Well, I think the Good Food Council is a great opportunity to connect with them, and they have that network, that team of those that are in this field that have been really looking at this. I think we make sure that they're involved in that communication.
Yeah, and there's some, the Maine State Supermarkets Association, or Grocers Association, there's some trade groups too.
Yep.
Is it Maine Grocers? Yeah, there's some trade groups up in Augusta that could help publicize this. Because I think if you have some successful butcher shops, someone mentioned that earlier, that are in other parts of the state, franchisees, some of them Meat Market, if I remember correctly, down in Kennebunk, hey, they might want to come up here. Okay, so if we let them know, and that $35,000 might be enough for them to look closer at this market and make that educated decision. So there's a lot of, I think, ways to publicize this, is because we do want more. That's the whole thing. We want to up this level of accessibility.
Yep. Once we put the marketing plan together, we'll communicate that back to council.
Question.
Counselor?
Are we going to give preference to Auburn residents and their developing or expanding their current store? Or are we going to also reach out to, like what the good mayor just mentioned, that may want to come down and sell some of their goods, like the meats and the whatnot?
So the program limits that you have to be a Maine-based food retailer. It does not limit it to Auburn, simply because I don't know where the people who own those stores that are in Auburn live. But it excludes all the larger chains, all the convenience stores and things like that. As far as preference go, I would say we'd look at it, again, it's going to be an open window for applications.
Right.
And then once we receive them, if we're overwhelmed, we may come back for a little more guidance. But initially, I think we're probably going to be fine.
The strength
Thank you.
of the model should be, I think, paramount. The sustainability, we don't have to go in there after this and
Right.
constantly bail them out or provide any types of tax incentives. The strength of the financial model and their business plan. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next, we have an executive session on real estate matter, which a premature disclosure of that information would prejudice the competitive bargaining, position of the city pursuant to 1 MRSA, Section 405. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Counselor Milk, second from Counselor Walker. All those in favor? Yeah, okay, we're now in executive session. allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have 3 consent items on the agenda tonight. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Mr. Mayor, could I request that we discuss item 2, agenda item 2 separately? And not have it on the consent agenda?
Order 146-11072022. We'll take that off consent item. We'll move that under new business. Okay. Okay, so we have 2 items on the consent agenda for tonight now, after removing 1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Counselor Staples, second from Counselor Walker. All those in favor? All those opposed? None being, passes 7-0. Next are the minutes of the October 17, 2022 regular city council meeting. Are there any corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion Counselor Staples, second from Counselor Walker. All those in favor? Opposed? None being, passes 7-0. Now, on to communications, presentations, and recognition. Well, I'm going to start off today with our annual proclamation for Extra Mile Day. And unfortunately, the recipient is not here tonight. She was supposed to be, but didn't. But I'm still going to read this off because I think it serves as a really great example about people going the extra mile, which is honestly the whole point of this award. Whereas the City of Auburn, Maine sees the real and lasting benefits when its citizens go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Auburn is a community which encourages its citizens to give of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their family, friends, causes, and community. And whereas Auburn is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile to make a difference and lift others up. And whereas Auburn is honored to celebrate the recipient of our 2022 Extra Mile Award to Rhonda M. Russell for continued dedication to our city, our staff, and our community. Now, therefore, I, Jason Levesque, Mayor of the City of Auburn, do hereby proclaim November 7th, 2022 to be Extra Mile Day. I urge everyone in our community to take time on this day and in the days and weeks to come to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, communities, countries, or world a better place. So if you all could please join me in giving a round of applause for Rhonda. Now, a little bit about Rhonda. She works out in planning and permitting, economic development, or with Eric Cousins over there, and she retired. But when we needed more people because we're so darn busy, she came back and kept working. And she is one to never look for spotlight or praise or anything. I've had the pleasure of knowing Rhonda and working with her now for a few years. And she's just a great, great person. And I got to tell you, we wouldn't be able to do half the stuff that we are doing as a city without her support and her dedication to service. And she does truly serve as an inspiration to staff as well as elected officials alike. So again, Rhonda, I will find you and get pictures giving you this plaque. So anything you want to say, Rhonda, Phil?
Thanks, Mayor. I think you summed it up. I think with Eric reaching back out to Rhonda, and she just didn't even hesitate, and she's been assisting us. She's also, as you know, different programs have come in, one of them being the senior tax relief program. She's also stepped up and said that she would assist us until December, because that's when she's going to Florida. But so she's giving us a couple more months of hard work and coming in and making us get those requirements that we need to done. And so she's just always been a great asset. We hated to see her retire, but it's nice that she's coming back.
December 24, right?
That's it.
Okay. Update on the Maine State Housing Authority Community Solutions Grant Award and final program overview. Mr. Holmes?
Just wanted to take a second to come back, and we did receive the award from Maine State Housing for the matching $250,000. And we plan to get this program rolled out as soon as possible, but we're looking probably at a January 1st application process start, so we'll be ready for the next building season. One thing that has come up during conversations over the last few months is that we have a small gap in our ordinance.
Basically, a single-family dwelling has to be larger than 700 square feet, and a tiny home has to be smaller than 400 square feet. So if somebody wanted to build a 550 square foot ADU, they wouldn't be able to. So I'm working with Eric, and we'll probably be coming back with a recommended ordinance change to change some of that.
Okay.
So that all stems from back a long time ago, as far as the 700. Any questions on the program? I mean, you've all seen it before, the money's been approved, just want to make sure you knew where we were at.
And there's a press too. I think Maine Biz, Portland Press Herald wrote about this grant too. Maine State Housing Authority publicized it as well, didn't they?
Yes, they have,
So this is the first one of its kind in the state?
absolutely.
Okay, man, great job, really. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you. Okay, council communications about and to the community. Start off to my left. Counselor?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to thank TD Bank for putting in some trees in the New Auburn area. We had a great event a few weeks back, and if you drive up 3rd and 6th Streets, you can see a lot of new trees. So it's great to see that happen. I also wanted to ahead of time thank our city clerk for running election tomorrow. Thank you very much. And please vote tomorrow. Polls open at 7 a.m. Close at 8 p.m.
Yes, I'd just like to remind people that we got a Thanksgiving dinner going on November 24th, so come on down. We open the door at 11. Please call and reserve a spot so we have a number of how many are coming. Thank you very much.
After talking to Councilor Walker, he was bragging about the turnout by local businesses at the trunk or treat function at Anniversary Park in New Auburn. I was in attendance at Lost Valley, and the turnout was incredible. I'm sure the weather had a little bit to do with that, but I would ask any local businesses that are interested in participating in passing out candy to children to, he's not aware that I'm asking them to do this, but he soon will, reach out to Travis Dow at Lost Valley and possibly get involved for the event next year.
Yeah, I'd like to just give a really heartfelt congratulations to the Everett Little football team, the soccer team, who really went above and beyond and made it to postseason play. It was especially sentimental to be at Walton Field for the last Edward Little Lewiston home game at Walton Field. Next year, they're going to be at the new stadium, coexisting with the new high school. It's going to be turf. It's going to be great, but it will be a little bit different. But it was great to see, I would say, I think the count was 270 alumni going all the way back to 1948 that were there. Really enjoy the camaraderie and the spirit. If you ever doubt Auburn's civic pride, you just got to go to an event like that. Soccer, I tell you, I played soccer in high school for Everett Little. I think I did. I don't think I did compared to what these kids are playing. I'm not sure what I did then. But these kids are unbelievable, and it was a sore defeat to Lewiston. But they definitely played with some heart. Granted, hundreds and hundreds of people were there. Another fabulous event. Target grand opening. I think we've all seen it. Probably most of us here have been there and spent lots and lots of money, and a lot of other people are too. It's creating a great buzz, and we're really happy they've joined our community. Again, another Lost Valley event just this weekend, a Brew Fest. I want to bring this up because this Brew Fest had over 500 people, and I was there talking to a lot of folks and talking to the management and Travis Dow and John Herrick, and about 75% of these people did not come from Auburn or Androscoggin County. They came from away. This is truly a tourist event, and they absolutely loved it. For some of them, it was their first introduction to Auburn, and they were very, very impressed. It's good to hear that third-party testimony from folks. Also, Everett Little High School announcement upcoming November 17th, 18th, and 19th at Community Little Theater. They will be producing the drama club, Mamma Mia, Broadway musical, and I will be in the play in a cameo appearance towards the end, so you might want to get popcorn then. But yeah, so I'm going to be in the play. I'm going to be Father Alexandrios. So me as a priest, I'm definitely sure that's not going to give me bonus points at the pearly gate, but it'll be fun. So I encourage you all to get tickets. Please go out there, 16th, 17th, 18th, Community Little Theater. And that's it for updates on my end.
Nothing for me.
Just happy to see a full parking lot at Target every time I drive by. That part of Center Street is a revived area.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few things. One, so far, the senior homeowner relief program, that would be the $300 checks that you have approved. For our seniors, we've received 113 applications so far. So I encourage people to fill out that application and submit that as soon as possible. You can go to the website or come right into the City Hall, and we'll assist you with that. A drug take-back event took place. Auburn collected 732 pounds of unused or expired medications from our Bedard Pharmacy site. So that's a huge turnout for that. So that's always great to see. We'll do that again in collaboration with other entities in the state. The Christmas Village, if you go by Festival Plaza, you'll see that the Christmas Village is underway. The work is taking place on that. That'll be, the kickoff on that will be December 3rd. For the lighting of the Christmas tree, as well as the villages will open up with vendors. For those who don't know, we had well over 100 vendors apply for those spots. We ended up breaking it out so that we'll take vendors every week. We'll have different vendors that are there, so keep it very fresh for people to come in and visit the Christmas Village. We were audited by the state of Maine on the Keep Maine Healthy grant. We received well over $300,000 for those funds during CARES funds through the state. Each of them came in with 3 different awards because we were doing our reporting and doing what we needed to, so the state had additional funds and were able to provide that. We did get our audit back from the state with a clean audit on those funds that were expended. And lastly, we also were a big part of the vaccination clinic at the Auburn Mall, which required a lot of resources and funds from the city. We were able to access funds through FEMA for reimbursement on that. We received over $85,000 in reimbursement from FEMA. Those who have dealt with FEMA know that it's a lot of hurdles to go through to receive those funds. So the fact that Rita Beaudry, who is our grant writer and grant manager, coordinates all these funds, was able to do very well on getting those funds returned back to the city. That's all I have, Mayor.
Good. Okay, we're going to move on to the first open session of the night. Members of the public are invited to speak to the council about any issue directly related to city business, which is not on tonight's agenda. Members that would like to speak, just please step up to the podium. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address, if you could, please.
My name is Pam Rousseau, 745 West Auburn Road. I have a question. When in the comp plan, the purple goes all the way down almost to the junction of Lake and Hotel. And in Eric's presentation on the T24B, it only goes about halfway up. And so I would just want to know why there's a difference in that. It was just something that I noticed. I'd also like to, this is just informing people, that there was it requires 25 people to sign a petition. This petition is at 150 Andrew Drive to take ag zone and low density to suburban residential. It's 40 acres, and I just wanted to let people know that our ag zone is being changed anyway, and I think that most people don't know that. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak during tonight's open session?
Andy Titus, 24 Rubelite Lane. Tonight, I just wanted to make a comment about one of your workshop items, which was the community grocery store grant. And one thing that I always think about when I see these programs, I worry about one business competing against another using federal or local funds to do so. And I understand you got to be outside of a 1/4 half mile away from a major grocery store, which I assume, I'm not sure why that would be, but I would worry that if I had a grocery store, if I didn't take the grant, my competitor a few blocks down could take the grant, and it could be an unfair competitive advantage. So I would just wish that you would look at that. I know nobody seemed to mention it, but it can happen very easily. Somebody can feel like they're being competed against by their own city. So, thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak in tonight's open session? You should wait. That's an agenda item. If it's about 4.2B in the Court Street. Yeah, just soon. Okay. Nobody else? I will now close the first open session of the night.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to enter an executive session.
I have a motion to suspend the rules to enter into executive session. Reason?
Staffing issues, concerns?
Okay. I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Walker. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please read.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a correction? I believe
Please.
potentially it's legal matters.
Legal matters.
Thank you.
So I have a motion on the floor to enter into, to suspend the rules in preparation to enter an executive session to discuss legal issues. Post after this though, we'll then entertain the motion with the statute. So, all those in favor of suspending the rules, please raise your hand. Okay, passes 7-0. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session regarding a legal matter pursuant to 1 MRSA, Section 405-6A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor, or excuse me, do I have that motion?
Motion to move.
Councilor Milk, second from Councilor Walker. All those in favor? Okay, all in favor? We're now standing in executive session by vote 7-0. Folks, I would like you all, ask you pretty politely if you could just leave the room. We can't The City Council back in session. And next is ordinance 20-09062022, amending the zoning district T 4.2B. This is the second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Councilor Staples, second by Councilor Walker. I'll now open this up to the public for comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment? If so, please step up to the podium and state your name and address.
My name's Jeffrey Harmon. I'm a resident of Ward 2, and I live at 34 Vista Drive. I'll make my comments tonight fully understanding that for the majority of the council, these will fall on deaf ears. If one thing can be said, the majority of the council has been consistent all through this with the intent of driving through some zoning changes that benefit a small group of special interest but have been widely opposed by the citizens in Auburn. It was very clear when we did this petition drive that people were opposed to these types of changes. The council decided to make some small tweaks to the 4.2 standard, and we're going to end up with pretty much the exact same outcome that we would have had under 4.2 that people opposed. So my message to you tonight is to do the right thing, right? You are not representing the majority of the people in Auburn. You're subverting the will of the voters. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Bergeron, resident of Ward 2. Thanks for another opportunity to address the council on this issue. I spent many years on the planning board and on one of the comprehensive plan updates, so I kind of know this stuff is fairly difficult subject matter to approach at any time. And it's not simple, but I do know that form-based codes T 4.2 and 4.1 were carefully crafted over a 2-year period to fit the downtown Auburn neighborhood. To the extent that it belongs anywhere, this hastily created hybrid known as 4.2B also belongs in that area, not in the 1,600 acre area to which you want to apply it or to the other acres where it will eventually be applied. What I learned in the petition process is that this zoning is going to be very unpopular. And as you apply it to the other areas, it will become more so. So tonight, I'd like you to consider taking a step back, rejecting the broad brush that you're using here, and initiating a process that more carefully considers where you apply these changes. Thank you.
No. Sharon Philbrook Bergeron, 23 Dexter Avenue. First, I'd like to thank the two councilors who have stood in solidarity with the 2,000 petition signing voters in Auburn who oppose this wholesale rezoning of our neighborhoods. More accurately, the twin sister of what you're taking up tonight. So, thank you, Belinda and Rick. I also want to thank Ryan for taking out the pot shops. Appreciated that as well. But the rezoning you're considering tonight still allows 3.5-story buildings to be built 5 feet from property lines, dwarfing our homes. It will line our streets with parked cars, rendering them unsafe. It will allow all kinds of businesses to pop up until our neighborhoods could look like Washington Street. Some of our changes might work along corridors like Court Street or maybe Gamage, but not on Fern and Shepley and the little connecting streets. We can do better than this. We have a lot of common ground because we all care about Auburn. So I suggest we work together and we get it right, not just for the developers and the businesses, but for the single-family homeowners as well. So we have some sensible growth. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this topic?
Good Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Dunn. I live at 530 Court Street in Auburn. I have to say that this has been a very long, painful process from last, I'm not sure when, November, I think, is when the land was sold across the street from me. And by January, we were receiving a letter about rezoning. And by February, the permit was given. And by April, the land was completely stripped. And you can see what's there now. And perhaps you all think that's wonderful. I haven't met a single person that drives by who knows me, who thinks the same. They call with apologies. We're so sorry to see what's happening in your neighborhood. I can't imagine that the city could let that happen. And yet, we have. So, I am opposed to 4.2B in the neighborhoods where you want to put it. I'm sure that that kind of housing belongs in places where some of it already exists. Grace Lawn, River Road. There's some development happening up by BJ's and G&B. Nothing's happened there yet, but this one across the street from me, like wildfire, it's there forever. The traffic is horrendous already. It's not getting any better. We have had some near misses recently. Not only that, the developers that are working on that property are not practicing safe development. They have blocked the roads, they have blocked the sidewalks, they have trash blowing around. It's not safe for our community. But you want to develop neighborhoods that are walkable? I think we need to rethink how that should look. Please vote this down. I've said it about 10 times so far. I'm sure it's not going to happen, but you do have some residents that are not happy. When do you start looking out for us? I'm still waiting.
Hello, my name's Renee Cody. I live on Dawes Avenue. That's in Ward 2. So my friends from out of town used to ask me, how do you like living in Auburn? And I used to say, oh, I really love it. It's great. My husband was brought up here. It's a great place to live, a great place for raising children. Now I am faced with a infill building project right across from my home, a very large home on a very small envelope full of light pollution already. Court Street, which is just a mess, and the traffic is going to be unbelievable. Also a planned development that somehow managed to get DEP approval right next to my husband's business. So in 3 different ways, I've been impacted by this zoning, and I really can no longer say that Auburn is a good place to live, that I would recommend to anybody. I would really urge you to consider how much people don't like this zoning change. Really think about it. You know, we only have 2 counselors so far who stood up against it, but I doubt it will happen, but I would really like you to think about what you're doing here. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Celia McGuckian, 10 Fairmont Avenue, Auburn. This is my hometown, and by that I mean Lewiston as well. I went to one meeting at Fairview explaining some of the neighborhood zoning, and I just wanted to bring to your attention unintended consequences or things that perhaps you're just blowing over because the money's great for developing. A lady was speaking there and said she had dishes breaking in her house because she didn't realize that they were going to be blasting. And the second thing was water pressure. And a plumber told her that in order to fix the water pressure, that was a direct result of the new housing, she was going to have to pay some money, and it's all hers. So I just wanted you to please pay attention. And I also was on one of those petition drives, and I was shocked at the reaction. And I don't think you realize how angry people are out there. Thank you.
Pam Russo, 745 West Auburn. I realize that there has to be some development in Auburn. And I am, I feel like I'm talking to, 6, 7 brick walls. But please learn how to paint by numbers and not whitewash the whole damn barn.
You're a Marine.
My name is John Cleveland. I live at 183 Davis Avenue. Tonight you are acting on the adoption of a new zoning ordinance called T4.2B and applying it to the Court Street area. This new zoning ordinance is essentially the same as the T4.2 ordinance, which 2,400 citizens of Auburn signed a petition to repeal. None of the 2,400 citizens who acted to repeal the ordinance asked for this ordinance. None of them. In fact, they're opposed to its enactment. If you vote this evening to enact this ordinance, you will be violating the intent and purpose of the city charter that gives the citizens of Auburn the right to exercise a citizen's veto over ordinance passed by the city council that they do not want. And just as a reminder, I was on that charter commission that wrote it. The voters of Auburn are not fools. They know exactly what you're doing. Making an end run around the charter by enacting a slightly modified ordinance that they do not want, even after they followed the provisions of the charter to repeal it, and then were not allowed to exercise their right to vote at a city-wide election. The voters of Auburn will not forget or forgive those of you who vote to enact this ordinance tonight.
If there's anybody else who'd like to speak on this topic, the being, I'll now close the open session. I'm going to bring it back to the council. Or I'll bring it back to the council. I'd like to ask Mr. Cousins too, if you don't mind, be here. We also have council with us too, if there's any questions to council. I just have a couple feedback questions for Mr. Cousins too. The course of this 45-day pause, the intent was to have 2 public sessions, one via teleconference and the other one in person. Do you have any feedback, any response on that?
So staff held those 2 meetings, one virtual, one at Fairview, and they were not attended by large numbers, but the discussion was good. There was more of a roundtable type setting. Questions were answered. There were opportunities to look at everybody in attendance was able to look at their property and understand specifically how the zoning worked, was the feedback I received from staff. I was not at the meeting, but they were really able to have a conversation about the zoning. And I know staff appreciated that, and there was feedback from the public that they also appreciated, even though it was not large groups.
Okay, very good, thank you. I'll bring it back to the council. Council, this is our second reading, it's postponed. I'd like to start with those in opposition. Speak first, please.
I guess my concern is that, we can pass this tonight, and assuming there's another petition drive, zoning is long-term. It's not something you should be adopting, especially such major changes as are in this, knowing full well that it's going to be objected to by the public. They've already been through one petition drive. Now they have another petition drive, which will likely occur in response to our action. And contrary to the desire for development, this will actually discourage development, because developers will look at Auburn and say, what the hell is going on there? The city council is not paying attention to the public, and we can't rely on their zoning because it's going to get blown up by the petition.
Those speaking in support of the ordinance? Nobody wants to speak in support? Very good. I'll now turn it over to the clerk for a roll call vote.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Whiting?
No.
Isn't it supposed to be?
Counsel,
Should start with Councilor Walker.
Counselor Walker first on roll call.
oh. Okay. All right, Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Staples.
Yes.
And Counselor Gary?
No.
Okay, Counselor Whiting?
No again.
Okay, Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
And Counselor Moran?
Yes.
The ordinance passes, second and final reading by a vote of 5-2. Next is Order 148-11072022, authorizing the allocation of $215,000 of American Recovery Protection Act funds to create the Downtown Curb Appeal Grant Program. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Councilor Walker, I got a second from Councilor Staples. I'll now open this up to the public for comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? If so, please step up to the podium and state your name and address. None being, I'll now bring it back to the council for debate. Council, this is in response to a proposal in a workshop that Mr. Holmes and staff put together for downtown curb appeal. You probably come to, is there any questions of Mr. Holmes? Just as a kind of reiteration, this really is going to target our downtown, our historic downtown area, allowing for major facade and energy efficiency grants to go to those projects in desperate, or those buildings in desperate need. You want to add anything to that, Mr. Holmes? Anything we need to be aware of?
Just real quickly, based on the workshop, we did make the changes that were discussed at the workshop. They are $10,000 cap grants. We did look at the concern around the inspection piece, and we will have an inspection. However, it's going to be a housing safety inspection provided by community development staff, so it will not be code enforcement. And basically, as long as we don't see anything egregious, then we will move forward. Otherwise, we will, at that point, tell them they either need to terminate their application, or they would have to have code enforcement come in and do a full inspection.
Any questions of Mr. Holmes? Any comments? Those in opposition to this? Those in support of this? None being? Oh, very good. I'll ask for a roll call vote at this time. Actually, no, this is a simple show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? None being, passes 7-0. Next is Order 149-11072022, approving the MSEA labor contract. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion, Councilor Whiting, second, Councilor Staples. Open this up to the public for comment. Anybody in the public like to comment? None being, I'm going to bring it back to the council. Council debate? None? Ask for a vote. Show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? None being, passes 7-0. Next is Order 150-11072022, allocating up to $50,000 from the American Rescue Plan to purchase 2 trailers as part of the Community Outreach and Community Beautification Trailer Program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Gary and Councilor Staples on the second. Open this up to the public for comment. Folks, if you remember, this is a part of a plan to provide community-free access for block parties as well as neighborhood beautification. Bring it back to the council. Council comment? Councilor Staples?
Sure, yeah, so having a little bit more time to think about this than what we had in workshop, just some questions. So when I see this, I want to know who's going to be administering this and who's running this. Is this something that we have capacity with our current staff to do? Or is this something that we're eventually going to see a request for another position?
Good questions. I think that we will continue working through. One thing that the PD has been looking at for quite a few years is about taking block parties out from just the downtown and actually bringing it to neighborhoods. So I see that we'll have policies in place on the public being able to request those resources. We'll have an application process. There'll be a work order that goes out to Public Works to deliver this, to make it available. Some materials for those who are using, or if an organization is requesting the community service trailer. Picture this like Edward Little High School has students that go out to do community service hours. They may want to use this trailer to be able to access that. Staff already makes resources available when they go out. Now they'll be able to roll out this trailer. The students will be able to use those rakes, whatever else might be in that trailer, to be able to access that and do that community work. So staff is already doing a lot of this, and I see it just being added to that, but you won't see an added position saying we need a coordinator of this. It will be already worked into our existing systems.
I assume we have storage for these things, and the other thing that comes into my mind is that, you know, buying a bunch of assets with ARPA money, I get concerned about the cliff, you know, the funding cliff here. Eventually, we're going to need to replace tools, replace stuff in these trailers. And so that's going to come back to us in a budget, and it's not going to be through ARPA funds. So, you know, voting in favor of this, I think everybody has to acknowledge the fact that we are potentially adding to budgets in the future.
Yeah, that's a great point, though. Yes, Councilor
Yeah, I
Walker.
think in the workshop, we discussed this, and one of the things that Phil talked about was sponsorship from entities who might provide tools, if they could put advertising on the thing, that sort of thing. So we may be able to offset some of the expenses that way.
This is worst case, max expenditure, right? Before we go forward and try to secure some sort of sponsorship.
Yeah, I think it was presented to us that in other situations that we're basing this model on, it was a zero cost to the city. Is that correct? Mr.
So
Manager?
yeah, I think what you'll see
This
is,
program that-
hopefully we'll have sponsors that'll be part of this. I think the Christmas Village probably is a good example. We have a sponsor that came forward on outfitting the sheds on the inside with shelving. That's at no cost. The city won't be used out of ARPA funds. We'll continue to look for partners like that, and we'll collaborate where we can.
I think it's a testament to how excited people are, especially our businesses, because it seems like there's not a problem finding companies and individuals willing to sponsor. They are happy, you know, so I think that's something to keep in mind. And the best way to gauge happiness in a community is by people willing to actually write a check.
You gotta keep in mind too, Public Works has a lot of this stuff on hand right now. Move it around all.
So might as well just put it in the trailer and keep it simple. Councilor Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a great vehicle to help neighborhoods with beautification and things, as well as seniors. There's a few seniors that have come to the age-friendly that say, hey, we need our lawns raked or grass cut or different things, but we had no real avenue to do it. So this vehicle would provide the storage unit for the tools that we may need to help people. And I think it's a great way to help redefine and re-beautify our city and help others as well as us take more pride in this place that we live.
And I just want to close out these comments too. And if you look at the story that's being told here with everything, our expenditures and what we're doing, you look at starting with rezoning, actually starting with ADU allowances, the most permissive ADU ordinance in the state of Maine, one of the most in the country, followed by rezoning, followed by ADU grants that are the first of its kind and matched with dollars from Maine State Housing. You look at this street cleanup that we just passed, that grant, you look at these trailers, everything's designed, okay, to provide that overarching, the grocery program, those complete neighborhoods, beautification, taking back our streets through a budget process with Auburn Police. Everything is part of that ecosystem, that story, and they all connect well. And, you know, our goal is for everybody to see, you know, how everything interplays. And I think that's important because you're telling a story, and not just telling a story, but we're actually going to see the results of that story. So with that, I'm going to ask for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? None? Passes 7-0. Okay, next is, again, order number. There was an earlier print of the agenda. It was changed. It said resolve. It's actually an order. It's order number 151-11072022, directing the planning board to provide a recommendation on a text amendment whether to eliminate the income standard and the current strip zoning limitations in all areas outside of the Lake Auburn watershed overlay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Staples, I get a second from Councilor Walker. I'll open this up to the public for comment, but I'll also state that this is
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I don't think the public has this, so would it be possible for the public to see this? It is on the table. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And that is yet to be
Yep,
made, actually,
yep.
it's probably gonna come later.
Thank
So there, just as a public comment, but this is kind of a reaffirmation of the resolve that was passed in the last council meeting due to some ambiguity that the planning board had during their meeting when they followed up. They weren't sure what type of recommendation, what form it should be in. This clarifies that it's a council-directed review of a section of ordinance. And then it will come back to us in some way, shape, or manner with suggested language, yes, no, what have you, findings of fact. And this is really going to allow that findings of fact to happen for further city council deliberation. Okay? Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment?
Stephen Beal, 575 Johnson Road. Excuse my voice, I have a cold. Two comments. First, these are two very significant substantive proposed changes to existing ordinances, and I think that they ought not to be joined together. The proposal regarding the income limitation is one that's created a very substantial amount of discussion several times in the not-too-distant past, and the limitation or the removal of limitations in zones outside the watershed district is another subject which was in very much the same fashion the substance of a proposed ordinance change that was indefinitely tabled only 11 months ago on December 6th of last year. That was the proposal to expand the setback requirement from the center line of roads abutting areas that were in either rural residential or low-density country residential, and expand those lines back to 750 feet, encroaching into the agriculture and resource protection areas. That was rejected. This proposal would appear, on the face of this wording, to have no footage limitations or extensions whatsoever. I think this proposal needs to be not only separated from the income limitation proposal, but also to be reworded to make more specific exactly what is intended here, because if it is intended to be worded as broadly as it presently is, there will be unending hearings on this subject. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this topic? I'll now close the open session portion. A couple things I did want to bring to your attention, and sir, I didn't catch his name, but I'll get it from the minutes. Two important points I think we need to talk about. The strip zone aspect is not part of this order. Okay, strip zones are not taking up here. This is just the order. It's in the order. Okay, it's not taking up here. That is separate, so it is separated. This is only talking about agricultural income standards and the ability to build a residence in agricultural land, period, in the watershed. So we have separated the strip zones out. That's one. And second,
That's not what it says.
Yeah.
the strip zone portion?
It's right in this document.
You got it right here.
I'm sorry, did I just misread it? And that, hey, very well could be. I've made mistakes. I'll own it. Where? For strip zones, where is it?
The last one, it's in black. It's not in the red, but.
The red is the only thing that we're sending. And this has not been motioned yet.
No, that's
Yeah,
a
I'm talking about this.
modification by the attorney
No, but this
to
has,
make this a better
Counselor Whiting,
order for the
Counselor
public to
Whiting?
understand.
Counselor Whiting, this is a proposed amendment that has not been made yet. So I'm talking about the initial in the document. Thank you.
Point of order, it is in there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Then if that is, I'm just talking about this, the extra handout. This has not been
No,
amended or vocalized.
it's in all over the packet.
Is it in the actual order red line?
Yeah.
Let's look at that. Could you point it out to me, Counselor Staples? The page in the packet?
89?
Page 89?
Says on whether or not to eliminate the income standard and the current strip zoning limitations in all areas outside Lake Auburn watershed. I mean, it's all
See,
through there.
what's being looked at, Mayor, is the original resolve that you adopted in September 6th
Right,
of
correct.
2022.
But I'm referring to the actual order with the amendments that's
Correct.
going to go to planning board if it passes vote. I'm not talking about the resolution. The resolution, this is an order that's very specific, and please, let's look over it now, okay? Because it has to deal with building a residence within ag land in the watershed and eliminating of the income. And strip zone amendments, even though it appeared in the initial resolution, doesn't appear in these text amendments that I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Point of order, in the very last page of this, page 99, it's right there.
Let me get to it.
Whether or not to eliminate the income standard and the current strip zoning limitations. And I believe that's the
Yeah.
final order that we're voting on.
This is the initial one, but now, this right here is City Council 0609.
So it's right there.
Oh, it's gonna be in that, and the current, even though it's not redlined. And I take it back then. Then I was wrong, and I apologize for that. Because I just saw this. So with that said, why don't we let, everybody's referring to a document that is yet to be read into the record? Counselor, you propose a motion?
So we're putting the.
This is a motion to amend.
Yeah, so
that's not in here right now.
the whole thing? Just the red?
Just the red,
Yeah,
add.
this is the, so we're making a motion to amend that after consultation with the Sustainability and Natural Resource Management Board to conduct a public hearing pursuant to Article 17, Division 3 of the zoning ordinance, and report in writing the results of the hearing and recommendations of the planning board pursuant to Article 17, Division 4 of the zoning ordinance to the city council no later than March 20th, 2023, on whether or not to eliminate the income standard and the current strip zoning limitations in all areas outside the Lake Auburn watershed overlay as an ordinance text amendment shown on the attached proposed text changes.
I have a motion for Counselor Milks, which probably clears up the ambiguity. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Counselor Walker. As for any debate on the motion to amend the order that's in your packet? None being, all those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Passes 4-3. Okay, now the motion stands on the floor as amended. We'll open this up to further debate and discussion. All those that want to speak in opposition to this, please do. Anybody?
Yeah, I would
Sure.
say that, the public feels we have an, all-out assault on the various zoning rules of the city. And now, this is added to that all-out assault, which is just going to put the city in raging turmoil, and I will vote against it.
The part that to me is really confusing here is we're asking to change the ag zone, except in the Lake Auburn watershed. So I don't understand. I think what the outcome here is that we'd have two different zones. Is that what we're going to do here? To me, that's very confusing.
I will say the outcome is really, we're looking for, this triggers action by Planning Board and the Sustainability and Natural Resources Committee in order to provide ideas, recommendations. It clarifies any ambiguity that they brought up post the resolve that we passed in September. So there's not a foregone conclusion on anything. It's whether or not that they can actually work with a pretty long deadline to kind of give some ideas. We have to compel them. There's three ways that the planning board works. Either they do a planning board initiated zone review, staff initiates, or council initiates through this process. They do include public hearings and notification. That's what we're doing. Hopefully that clarifies. I don't think there's any idea, other than we know from past work that we do not want the ambiguity out there of potential houses being built in the ag zone within the watershed. And that clarifies that. Those who want to speak in favor of this?
Yeah, I'm in favor of having a discussion about the vast amount of land that we have in the city of Auburn that's ag and resource protection, and getting opinions and having a public discussion about what we should do with land that's not being used. So I think it's healthy.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? None? Councilor Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. a few years back, we as a council had decided that, or we discussed and decided that we were going to do what we could do to preserve our ag land and to encourage new farm ventures and things. What we're seemingly trying to do is not trying to preserve our heritage and help those that want to, and help us to have a close food source in our backyard, is to try to take the land and make it into houses, expensive homes in the ag land. And I know you're saying that we're protecting the...
Councilor Whiting, I'm sorry. Councilor Whiting, did you want to say something?
I apologize.
I'm sorry, Councilor Gary, please continue.
We're trying to protect the Lake Auburn watershed, but there's more to it than to protect than that. And I will not be supporting this. And also, this is the 12th hour. The public hasn't vetted this. We're not even totally clear on this because we're taking this and that and reading this and that. And I mean, I'm maybe not the most educated person, but I do have understanding. And I know what I feel, and it's not right.
At this point, Councilor Moore.
Yeah, I think an important distinction for me with this is this isn't a first reading. I've spoken with people on the Sustainability and Natural Resource Management Board. It's an opportunity for them, in conjunction with the planning board, to take a look at the most important information in regards to the ag zone. Best soils, so on and so forth, existing farms, and provide us some information and some opinions and some recommendations. It's an opportunity to get another perspective on any potential future zoning changes, knowing that LD 2003 will be coming for us in July. It's an opportunity for us to kind of be proactive, get some information for people that I think have some valuable input.
Yeah, I'd just like to say to our counselor on the end there that we're not looking just to build fancy homes. We're trying to make it so someone can build a home and they don't have to farm a lot of acres. If you got 6.1, 8, 9, or 10, you're not going to be able to go out there and make a big farm. You can maybe grow some roses or some tomatoes. You want to call that a farm? That's great. There's a lot of people that own small acreage that would love to build a home. And for 50 years and more, we have kept them from doing that. And we're looking for a hole that will open up to allow these people that live and own this land. Now, the planning board can come back and say you've got to own it for 10 years, 20 years before you can build. If that's what they want to present to us, then do it. We're just looking for some different ways of thinking. How can we help someone that wants to build themselves a house on land that they've owned for 20, 30, 40, 50 years? This crazy 30%, 50%, and whatever they want to use to stop you from building is totally ridiculous. I don't care if you're a farmer, I don't care if you're an egg layer, whatever it is, it's ridiculous. Open it up so somebody can build their home on their property.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Passes 4-3. Next is the last open session of the night. Members of the public are invited to speak to the council about any issue directly related to city business, which is not on tonight's agenda.
Mr. Mayor, there was an item that we had taken off the consent.
Oh, thank you, Councilor Whiting.
Yeah.
And let me bring that up, and again, new business. Thank you. Hold on, let me just find it real quick. Okay, next on the agenda actually is a consent item, which needs to come into new business. This is Order 146-11072022, which is appointing planning board members Tony Ferraro, Brian Dubois, and Paul Jakes to the Mayor's Ad Hoc Committee to develop permit-ready housing as nominated by the planning board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Staples, second by Councilor Moore. Open this up to the public for comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment?
Pam Russo, 745 West Auburn Road. I don't get it. It was my understanding that this was supposed to be only 2 planning board members and 2 members from the community, as I understand it. And what I really have a problem is that it seems like the city council, planning board is becoming more and more closed. You say you're going to listen to the people and have people have an opportunity for being part. I don't think this is how it appears. When I applied to the water district, the planning board member was chosen. In tomorrow's elections, instead of a member of the community being appointed by the mayor in the charter change, they're going to appoint another city councilor. And now today, the change is 3 planning board members instead of 2. And those 2 are even realtors. I just feel like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Anybody else in the public want to comment? No? Councilor Whiting, you pulled it off. You want to comment?
Yeah, I think the document that was presented dated September 1st did call for 2 planning board members, not 3. And it's entirely within your purview to make the appointment, so I wouldn't propose to tell you who, but I think we should be approving 2, not 3.
So let me tell you this, fair enough.
Yeah.
I did state 2. I watched the planning board meeting. I didn't select these individuals. They actually had an internal kind of nomination process and an internal vote on who they wanted. Those 3 wanted to be on it. They did discuss 2 and 3, and they just said 3. So
I have a suggestion, which I think would be a friendly amendment, which is that they elect an alternate. Just like, they're very familiar with that. Planning board has alternate members. I was an alternate member, Joe was, Dana was.
Associate
When
members.
you start, associate members, right.
So basically,
yeah.
an associate non-voting member, unless there's a hole.
Right. That wouldn't be telling the planning board what to do. It would just sort of reflect what our minutes called for, to have two members.
Okay, so running with that one, what I would recommend, hold on one second, please. I just want to pull the order. What I'd recommend is amending this order and appointing planning board members Tony Ferraro and Paul Jakes to the mayor's ad hoc committee as representatives of the planning board, and Brian Dubois as a member of the public, because he's in Ward 3, and there's nobody right now from Ward 3. And we allowed two out of two people from each ward for a total of 10. If that's a recommendation. But thank you for I'm glad it's humorous. I wasn't planning on it. I appreciate that, though. That's an idea that you could solve that. Or you could do as, Brian Dubois or Paul Jakes as an associate, or Tony, either one. I'm just trying to help you guide through that. It's up to you.
Associate.
I think the associate would be better received.
Do you want to pick one right now?
I would
make a motion.
make Brian as the associate. Ward 3 is right for many appointees. I don't think you'd have a problem getting a Ward 3 representative, and he is on the planning board, so, yeah, so.
Okay. Very good then. So, you want to make the motion, Councilor Whiting?
Yes, I would move that we appoint Tony Ferraro and Paul Jakes to the mayor's ad hoc committee to develop permit-ready housing as nominated by the planning board, with Brian Dubois as a, what was the term?
Alternate?
Alternate
/ associate.
Alternate.
Same thing, alternate.
Planning board.
Okay.
Yeah, member.
Very good then. I have the motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Councilor Gary. All those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? Passes 6-1. Okay. We amended it. Amended the final motion. Do I have to have a vote on the final motion, Sue? Yeah. Okay. At this point, I'm going to ask for a vote, show of hands, on the amended order 146-11072022. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-1. Next is the last open session of the night. Members of the public are invited to speak to the council about any issue directly related to city business which is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody here that would like to speak tonight? None being, I'll close the open session. Where? Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Victor Karen. I live on 57 Stevens Mills Road. I've been a taxpayer here for over 30 years. And I've been coming to the council meetings, all right, listening to them on YouTube. And a lot of what the people are saying to you is to listen. Every meeting, you say, ask people to come up and speak. They speak, but as they say, it falls on deaf ears. I will continue to attend these meetings, and I'll be listening real close. Thank you, and I'd like to add, I do appreciate everybody that is here on this council, that you spend your time and your energy to work on these things. But one of the things that you must understand, it is the citizens, taxpayers of this city that come to you and speak to you, and you have to start listening. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? None being, I'll close the open session. Now on reports. Mayor's report. School board meeting happened on Wednesday of last week, and we have a joint meeting on December 19th, school board and city council. MMA, I'm on the working group for LD 2003 with the Legislative Policy Commission, looking at any types of fixes and changes to LD 2003. We'll find out how that goes for the next couple months. I'll keep you all posted on that one. That's it for reports on my end. Oh, I'm sorry. Veterans Day, November 8th. The Auburn Exchange Club is...
Not November 8th.
I'm sorry, November 9th. No, November 9th. Sorry, November 8th is that election day. November 9th at noon, Green Ladle. It's a Veterans Appreciation Lunch. They do this every year. It's great. All veterans in Auburn and Lewiston eat for free. Even if you're not from Auburn and Lewiston, I'm pretty sure if you're a veteran, they'll let you come and eat for free. So it's a great time. Green Ladle, please come if you can. I know I'll be there with a bunch of other fellow veterans as well. Maybe I'll even get ex-Marine Hawes. I heard they're having crayons for lunch. So you should be there. That's it for me. City Council reports.
Just that tomorrow's election day and the buses are free. So if you want to run the bus tomorrow, there will be no charge.
Once again, get out and vote. That's the only way you're gonna make changes.
Ward 4 voting location is across the hall from here in the community room.
And here.
Ward 3.
Oh, 3, I'm sorry.
Nothing.
Councilor Whiting?
Yeah, Wards 1 and 2 down at the senior center next to Hasty Armory. Bob will probably be there.
Nothing? Mr. Manager?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. At this moment, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Councilor Walker and Councilor Mills. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We now stand adjourned. 8:24. Sue, go home, get some sleep. You're going to need it.
Yeah, when do you have to get